Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Philly Sports Pulse podcast live on all 302 Birds Network streaming services. Welcome on in. My name is Jesse Sterone. To my right is Adam Den. How we doing tonight, Adam?
Doing fantastic, Jesse. It's a great Thursday night. Got a lot going on in the sports world tonight and throughout this weekend. It's an exciting time to be within this city. That's for sure.
Oh yeah. So let's get started with the negative. Unfortunately, I hate to do this. But the Birds, man, they are taking some hits. We just heard the news this afternoon that Jalen Carter is going to be out this week against the LA Chargers. He had a shoulder procedure, um, and he will be apparently week to week. So, based on the fact that the Eagles let up almost 300 yards to the Chicago Bears last week, no, I just do not like the sound of a guy that has about 30 tackles this season out for the count. What say you?
Yeah, I am in complete agreement, Jesse. I think, you know, it's less a concern about Jalen Carter because it sounds like this is an issue that he's dealt with all season. The amount of snaps he's played all season genuinely point to this, being something that could have been a concern, right? He's averaged, he's had played some of the most snaps of any defensive tackle in football, even at a position that's largely rotational. They've really relied on him down the stretch very heavily, the combination of him and Ajomo and Jordan Davis. Just because of the loss of Milton Williams in the offseason, they've put more focus on them more heavily than ever before. But I mean, for a run defense that struggled so heavily on Sunday, and I think in large part that was due to the amount that they were on the field. I think in large part that was due to the incredibly poor play of the safeties, which we will get into. But they were not themselves at all either, and the Bears guards largely dominated this game. And so to lose a key piece of that now, I think it just continues to add on to, kind of some blows to the Eagles defense. I think there's going to be options to try to solve it. It's likely that they're going to try to play Jalen Phillips in the interior a lot more than they did. He was one of the most effective pass rushers in football playing on the interior this season when he was in Miami. They haven't really done a ton of it in Philadelphia because before they had so much faith in this rotation. But I think that is a good alternative, and even playing Brandon Graham on the interior, which is something you go back on film. That's something they did a lot against the Dallas Cowboys early in that game. That's something that you could see a little more, though. I hate to put even more load on 38-year-old BG. That's certainly a statement, but I think the more they can do to make it so that you're not having these kind of practice squad defensive linemen playing on the interior like we saw earlier in the season, and teams aren't able to penetrate up the middle as easily as they would be against, say, like a Byron Young or some of these other practice squad players. But I think, if anyone you were going to lose, you can probably afford to lose Jalen Carter because of some of the depth that you have, some of the options that you have at that position. But it's still a tough loss given what you saw on Sunday or Friday.
Yeah, I'm in 100% agreement. Um, it does feel like in order to beat the Birds, you've got to wear out that defense in order to win the game because this offensively, again, I mean, I'm being a dead horse here, but again, completely broken. Um, Even though AJ Brown had a great game, still, like, it doesn't matter when guys like Saquon Barkley, like Dallas Goddard, completely ineffective. Wow, in that game against the Bears. Um, I really thought that he was going to get more action, um, more passes up the middle, and that's something that they were talking about on 94 WIP. More passes up the middle, and Jason Kelsey came in, and he brought up the idea of more quarterback runs from Jalen. Now, you don't want to, at the same time, get him killed, but it definitely seems like they have been more conservative with Jalen Hurts pretty much this entire season when it has been shown game in and game out last season that he can be a mobile quarterback. He can, when he needs to, throw it, but don't discount Jalen Hurts' legs.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, Jesse. But I think my counter would be that they really have, I think, looked to get Jalen Hurts' legs more involved over the past couple weeks. In the past 2 or 3 games, he's rushed 3 or more times in at least 3 of them, and it's been more of a concerted effort as far as the design run game with Jalen Hurts. I think the issue offensively is still just the lack of, I mean, real connection. It seems schematically to start. It is, a lot of disconnect between both Jalen Hurts and this wide receiver core. You see, that play to Devontae Smith late in this game that could have been an easy touchdown. That him and Hurts are just on the wrong path. You're still seeing the same issues as far as run fits, right, with this offensive line and just their inability to really, be able to diversify what they want to do because of the struggles of these guards, Landon Dickerson and Tyler Steen against, I mean, even a pass rush as, not great as the Chicago Bears pass rush is. But I think largely there's just, a problem with the quarterback, a problem with the scheme, and a problem with the play caller. And really, the only one there's a real solution to is the play caller, right? Because the head coach won a Super Bowl, the quarterback won a Super Bowl, and the play caller has not proven anything yet. So naturally, he's going to become the scapegoat. But I think you have to emphasize that, Nick Sirianni's job is to hold together this locker room and to provide a scheme for Kevin Patullo to carry out. And they're still the same simplistic offense that they were earlier this season. They put out useless motions and RPOs that aren't really effective. They You can tell when they're running the football constantly, and their pass game is largely ineffective. Even though AJ Brown's route tree has gotten a little bit better, and the quarterback still has struggled. So I think the only one, even if the only one there's a real solution to is Batua, you can still point the blame around and around. And I think that's something that you have to emphasize.
We've got a comment here. Hey Adam, who are those people on your walls, musicians? Just wondering. That
Yeah.
is the WVOU radio. Adam, do you have any insight on what's going on back there?
On what's going on back there? We got a little Otis Redding. Love me some Otis Redding. Got a little David Bowie. I did not pick these out, but Fleetwood Mac. Got a little Fleetwood Mac. So, a couple Adam Den favorites in up there, but yeah, not picking them out.
Yeah, no. Shout out WVOU. We are both proud for Sinus Bears, and didn't think that was how that little thing was gonna go, but regardless, yeah. So let's continue this Eagles conversation, and I think so we talked about Jalen Carter. Let's shift to a little news bite that has swept the NFL world uh, on the defensive side. Darius Slay. He has had a very interesting couple of days. He was released by the Pittsburgh Steelers and then signed with the Buffalo Bills. And now it seems like you don't want to play for the Buffalo Bills. Um, you get that, and you get his wife, Mrs. Slay, on Twitter, updating her bio with the green hearts and hinting. at a Eagles return. At this point, and I think you alluded to it at the start of the show, um, the secondary, it's a major problem too. We saw in that first snap, in that first drive by the Bears. I swear I had this in my notes. They had Adoree Jackson lined up against Roma Dunze in that first drive where they weren't able to connect for the touchdown because Caleb Williams missed a throw or two in the end zone. But listen, Adoree Jackson has been really bad. Reed Blankenship, it seems like he's taken a bit of a step back. So listen, you know, um, I know Slay's getting up there in age. I know he was released by the Steelers, but I really think that he would help out this Eagles defense in a big way. He was with us last year in 2024. Obviously, they won that ring. So, what are your thoughts on him potentially joining us back, and how effective do you think he would actually be?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to start with the feasibility of it all, and that is not very. It would take a lot of negotiating. Probably would have to be a trade with Buffalo for his rights. I know him and his agent are surely trying to move their way over to Philadelphia. I'm just not sure that they have the leverage right now, and that leverage is largely the lack of leverage. I'll say is largely due to how he's played this year, and that is in large part why I believe that this is not, I mean, really a move that I would consider a huge boost for Philadelphia because Darius Slay has been quite possibly the worst starting corner in football this season. He has, showed his age as far as his athleticism and explosiveness. He's getting beaten by double moves constantly. He was essentially unplayable for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And so, you can put him in a new scheme, you can put him where he's comfortable, but I don't know that that's necessarily going to give him fresh legs and rejuvenate him. And so that makes it something that I don't know if I'd be willing to give up picks and legitimate capital for at this point. Now it is depth, and depth is key as you make a playoff run. That's the reason why they went and made that Jair Alexander move, and I would view this move in a similar way. But Slay has been worse than Alexander so far this season than when Alexander was playing for the Ravens. So it's not something that I would really consider to be uh, an ideal move for Philadelphia. I would say at this point, I think if I'm Philadelphia, I'm largely more concerned that maybe the market for safety help because I mean, looking at it right now, like you said, Reed Blankenship has been one of the worst safeties in football so far this year. And Sidney Brown's play on Sunday was absolutely dire. And the Chicago Bears looked to attack that on pretty much every run play. That was how they were able to get downhill so easily, is through using motion and causing the Eagles safeties, as they pointed out so often on the broadcast, to be moving in one direction and then have to relocate and not be able to fit the run gap. So I think, that would be the market where I'm looking for a move.
Yeah. Um, deleted his comment, but the guy Ethan brought up a good point. Rod Campbell, he's been a guy that really at the start of the season they had a tough stretch. They played the Rams where they somehow put up 33 points. They played the Chiefs tough, Dallas tough at the start, and Jahad Campbell was a huge part of that. Um, breaking up a ton of passes and being an absolute menace to society. Um, but since I don't know. It's been a couple of weeks since he's been a big time player on this squad for whatever reason. Vic Fangio has seemed to go with the Kobe Dean in a lot of these snaps, and I wonder what the thought process is behind that because when you drafted Jahad Campbell, he was one of the last guys in the draft, but he was a guy coming from Alabama. but and there was high praise for the guy. Um, and he backed it up to start the year. I just think it's frankly ridiculous that he's not in the majority of these snaps. Um, and yeah, I'm just wondering your thoughts on him, young player. Um, so that might be a reason why, but I'm wondering why you think Jahad Campbell has not been a huge factor in this Eagles defensive situation.
Yeah, Jesse, I think there's really a simple answer, and that is the play of Nakobe Dean right now. Nakobe Dean, since he's come back, has been one of the best coverage linebackers in the league. And nobody really wants to hear that. Nobody really wants to highlight that because it's not really the sexy take. But he has been awesome against, I mean, all kinds of tight ends across this league. He had that great, great game against the Bears tight end. I mean, against the Lions tight ends a couple weeks ago. Is able to shut down the Packers tight ends, and had a rough penalty within that Bears game, but played a pretty solid game. I thought on Sunday was one of the better players defensively for them. They struggled in a couple run fits, but again, I think that's largely due to the play of the safeties, and a lot was put on them. So I truly do think Nakobe Dean is the better starter in that role. Now, where I think you can be a little bit more critical of Vic Fangio in this defense, although I wouldn't be too critical, is in their kind of refusal to deploy him at edge rusher. And, that is somewhere where the Eagles were not able to really generate a serious pass rush against Caleb Williams. Part of that was his escapability and his ability to maneuver the pocket, but they weren't really pressuring him a ton within that game. So I think they could have used his youth and athleticism within that, especially in comparison to maybe options like Brandon Graham. And that's something that I think you actually are going to see though with this Jalen Carter injury. Is like we talked about a little bit ago. You look to move Jalen Phillips outside. Who's going to fill those edge spots? Jahad Campbell is a serious option to play a lot more snaps and work as an edge rusher within the offense. It's something which he really done in a little bit. He didn't do much of it at Alabama. It was mostly just high school and his earlier career at Alabama, but he certainly has the athletic tools to be effective at it. And so I would not be surprised to see Fangio deploy him there. But I think the linebacker spot is Nakobe Dean's for as long as he's playing as well as he has so far.
Yeah, no, I agree. Todd brings up a good point. Because there's really not too many um games left in the season after this. You've got the Bills and you've got the Commanders twice. The Commanders to me, like they're not having a good year. They're really not. They honestly they may be a top five draft pick team at the end of things. Um, but they still scare me just because of what they put up against us last year. Yes, I know that game at the end of the year, Jalen Hurts didn't play the majority of the game, but they're a team that we haven't really seen a ton of this year. Um, I am worried that if we're keeping in line with the thought that this is a 2023 collapse all over again, which some people have been talking about, that a Commanders game. They've got two. One of those Commanders games, if not both, is going to be the game where the Eagles falter big time. The Raiders also, this is years ago, but they're also on the schedule. Uh, Again, years ago, but I remember in the year that they won the Super Bowl, Nick Foles struggled huge against the Raiders. Different system entirely. John Gruden isn't even with the team anymore. But again, if we are thinking about 2023, there and we're going by the same playbook, there is a team like there was in 2023 with the Cardinals, who I believe had two or three wins at the time, that came into Philly and just absolutely gobsmacked everybody at the link. Um, you get the vibe that this is 2023 all over again? And if it is, is there enough time to fix things? Because personally, I don't know. You're getting into a situation where the Chargers are having a great year. The Bills look like they're the Bills all of a sudden all over again. And it's crunch time in Philly, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always very hesitant to compare teams across different systems and different years, especially when they're very different coaching staffs. And I think that has to be emphasized. There's a large difference between what Vic Fangio and the personnel that the Eagles bring on the Philadelphia defense versus what they were 2 years ago. And I think, you know, that has to give you confidence. There's also the fact that this Philadelphia team is still really, I mean, right in that playoff picture. They are just a game behind the NFC leading Los Angeles Rams and, right in the thick of things with the other contenders in the NFC. I think where you do see the worry, I would say, is the play of the Dallas Cowboys lately. And I think, they have looked fantastic on both ends of the football. This is one of the best offenses in football right now with how their line is playing, how their skill position players are playing, and they're very improved defensively as well. The play of Quinnen Williams and the revitalization of their interior defense has really caused them to be vaulted right in the conversation as a contender for a playoff spot in the NFC and maybe even a contender for the NFC East. And so that's kind of what makes you start to sweat it a bit. So I think the play of the Cowboys combined with the ineptitude of the offense. I mean, this right now with the lack of cohesion as an offense is an offense that has the potential to struggle against just about any defense in the NFL. The Chicago Bears are one of the worst defenses in the NFL. And 3 turnovers and a comedy of errors offensively really cost them that game. So I think given the circumstances, I mean, yeah, it is pure panic time for the Philadelphia Eagles. But at the same time, I'm always very hesitant to compare between seasons just because there's very different circumstances, and you know, it's it's still in likelihood, if we're being realistic, a good situation in Philadelphia to be in.
Uh, Before we move on to some Sixers talk, because right now they're playing Golden State.
Playing
Currently up
fantastic.
30. They're playing good. 33-13 on
Yep.
second quarter. So we'll get to that in a second. Uh, but we've got to talk about that. I don't think we even talked about the Bears game yet. And you mentioned the turnovers. You had three. You had the interception by Jalen, which is I seriously like when I saw that into double coverage, oh, my mouth was like to the floor because we know that is not the Jalen that we've come to expect. He's Mr. Risk Averse. Whether you like it or not, like he's not a guy that um is like a Patrick Mahomes or a Josh Allen that'll take those risky throws. But that throw right there, I think that was sort of emblematic of this culture that the Eagles offense is going through right now. Um,
Yeah.
it's at the point where like I think Jalen thought, man, like do I seriously just have to haphazardly bomb it like 50 yards downfield? I think that was sort of the thought process behind that. And then there was another turnover with the tush push. Again, the tush push major issue, it feels like. But you feel like Jalen Hurts has sort of uh, hit a point where he like is all out of ideas to fix things.
Yeah, I don't really. I think again the philosophy of this organization and kind of, as you kind of mentioned it, their averseness to turnovers is something that made Sunday a little bit frustrating, and it continues to hinder the playbook. We talked all last week about how the Eagles were going to be able to open up this offense through the run game because of the struggles of this Bears defensive line, and how they were going to dominate in that area. And they simply were conservative in the run game and were ineffective when being conservative in the run game. And that's something that continued to drag them down. It was still a lot of inside outside zone, the same kind of concepts over and over. And the guards struggled mightily. Steen and Dickerson were pretty horrible in this game, and really, cost them in that way. Cam Jurgens as well. And so with that, Jalen Hurts is working in ideal circumstances. He's, put behind the sticks constantly. And given those circumstances, he played rather poorly. It continues to be, just him trying to work in outside the numbers, and, this kind of lot of outside routes, and still not a lot of diversity over the middle of the field, which we'd like to see. Until late in this game, I was cackling because you see on that final drive, you have the AJ Brown crosser over the middle of the field. You have the shot play over the middle to Devontae Smith. It's like they finally woke up, on the
Yeah,
final drive as the game was winding down offensively. And
I
so
know.
I think, that's the kind of thing that is so frustrating, right? Is because they had the potential to do it. It reminds me of that Rams game back early in the season, which, they go down big early and they're kind of like, hey, we have the keys to unlock this offense. Let's uh, power it over the middle of the field with this pass game. We know they can take over in that way. It's just, continued frustration with their inability to do it. And I mean, the quarterback, still continues to not play well within that structure. He missed a couple of real gimme throws in this game. But given the circumstances around him, the play of the offensive line, the just horrible uh, run game, it's hard to um, carry it all on him.
Yeah, no, I agree. Just I no, not yet. Maybe in the off season, Ethan, but I
The Saints are
personally,
good, man. The Saints, the Saints are a very fun, well coached football team that I think has a bright future, and they showed that on Sunday. So I do not think that Kellen Moore specifically is returning anytime soon.
yeah, no, and it really is a shame because his performance last year, I think everybody was like, oh, like he's good, but he has the talent to back it up. Now we've seen with who do they got? Taysom Hill. He's good.
Yeah.
He's putting them he's putting the Saints in positions to win. So
Well, I think
novel concept. He might be a good coach.
well, yeah, I think largely, right, I wasn't even a big fan of what Kellen Moore did last season. I thought, schematically, they were still, largely rather static. But the run game was so effective, and they were doing so many different things within the run game that, it opened up opportunities for Kellen Moore to be a little creative. And that's why I'm so hesitant on all the people who are just, oh my God, Kevin Batulo is the evil that has caused all of this. Kevin Batulo is simply the only changed object, so he's the easiest to blame. But there are still all these factors that continue to swirl around this Philadelphia Eagles team that you know are in large part, if not larger part, of their struggles this season.
Like we said, like you mentioned, we saw it at the end of the game there. They make that 2-point conversion with I think we can talk about that 2-point conversion. There were some people that were like, "Oh, but why are you doing it now when, when you could have earlier?" Which I think that's a very valid point. But you make that 2-point conversion, I'm not saying you're back into it, but like you're showing a pulse. And that's what gets me about this team. Like they have the talent. They have they have a Super Bowl winning quarterback. They have a wide receiver duo that puts up 1,000-yard seasons. They have a running back that was the offensive player of the year. They have the talent to get it done. They have Jahad Campbell in the backfield. They brought back Brandon Graham, which I mean, that's not a great example because the guy is pretty much off the couch. But you have a guy in Cooper DeJean that ran back that pick six. What I'm saying is they had the talent to get things done, to get it done in Philly. And I think to me, this whole thing is it's a culture thing, and we sort of saw it um, on Hard Knocks a little bit, although that wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. It just goes to show that in the few clips that we did see of the Eagles, which by the way, that opening, disgusting. I hate you, NFL. Um, that was absolutely not necessary. That hurt my feelings. And I'm sure it hurt, everybody else's feelings. But in the few Eagles clips that we did see, it was Jalen Hurts taking accountability. It was Jalen Hurts talking to Devontae Smith that, oh, that's a throw I should have made. It was a fumble that he made. He took accountability for that. And my point is this: if there's a team that can get themselves out of it, it's them. You just can't. Let me put it this way: you can't let the outside noise get into your head, which I feel like we have with trying to force AJ Brown the ball, and you can't let the play callers hold you down to a point where you're playing conservative. Like, I want to see the dagger again, man. Like, what's so hard about that? Jalen showed that in the freaking Super Bowl. Like, you saw Saquon getting these huge runs and jettisoning his way to Offensive Player of the Year. Yeah, no, yes, I know that there are offensive line injuries. Losing Lane these last couple of games, having him unhealthy, whatever. That's a big problem. But this Eagles team, at least on paper, I can't blame Howie Roseman for the the talent that he brought in because that talent is enough, like we said, to win a Super Bowl. You just have to put the players in the best position to win. And right now, Kevin Patullo is not doing that job. I'm sorry, ran over.
Yeah, I mean, I just push back in that I think this team is different in that the injuries that they have sustained over this season, and I know you push off the offensive line, but it really is serious. I mean, we forget that Lane Johnson, I think we take for granted as the best right tackle in football. I think we took for granted Landon Dickerson as an all-pro left guard. Tyler Steen has been nowhere near Mekhi Becton. He is, I think, the fifth worst guard in terms of pressures allowed in the National Football League this season. Even if you want to point a finger at Jordan Mailata, I mean, this has been not his best season in the world. And the running back, has nobody wants to say it, has not been the same. The quarterback play, has struggled in terms of the situation that he's been in. The the play caller in this locker room seems more divided than ever when the head coach's job really is, I mean, at this point, only to hold the locker room together. He does not have play calling duties, as he has emphasized so many times to us. And the defense does not have, I mean, the snap count that they lost over this offseason was substantial. They lost Josh Sweat. They lost Milton Williams. Look at what those guys are doing for their respective teams. Josh Sweat's having a career year. He has almost 10 sacks. Milton Williams is probably the second best defender on that Patriots defense besides Christian Gonzalez. He's having an incredible year. And so, you know, this is this is what happens when you win a title, and how you respond is how you respond. But I think to solely place blame on a play caller becomes, even as bad as he's been. And don't get me wrong, I do not think that Kevin Tulo should be the play caller on Monday night. I don't know who should be, but I do not think it should be him. But at the end of the day, I think to simply funnel all your frustration into him when there are so many other factors going on in terms of the physical execution on the field is, hard to do.
Yeah, no, I'm there with you. I do agree to a point. But we got to move on, and we got to talk about the Sixers.
Yeah.
Here they come,
Yeah.
because right now they're putting on an absolute, I don't want to say masterclass, but yeah, masterclass
They're having a
against
rough
the
second
Warriors.
quarter. I have it on right now. I wouldn't go
Yeah,
there
no, yeah,
yet.
no, I wouldn't. Um, Quentin Grimes has a single point. Maxi's got 14. That's not a
16.
surprise. 16. There you go. I guess my computer's a little bit behind. But yeah, uh, Sixers right now, um, they are 11-9 on the year. Um, and I, they beat the Wizards in pretty handy fashion, um, 2 days ago. They lost to the Hawks 142 to 134. They beat up the Nets. Got crushed by the Magic. Um, so they've been very up and down these last couple of games. Give me your assessment so far on the Sixers, like, the last couple of games.
Yeah, this is a fun basketball team, and it's around what I expected. It's a 500 basketball team that you have questions about who's going to be on the floor every single night, but the young players who are on the floor have, for the most part, showed up to their fullest extent, and that's mostly what's important. Tyrese Maxey is, I mean, at this point, going to be in the All NBA conversation because Giannis is going to miss 4 weeks with that calf injury he sustained the other night. So there's going to be an argument for him to be in that conversation, and that's always incredibly fun. He is 14-3 so far. He's been incredible tonight against this group of injury rattled Golden State Warriors guards that really don't have any answer for him. VJ Edgecombe has slowed down since his initial start, but he's still a very impactful player. He had a double double the other night. He's playing well tonight. He's showing his impact a little more on the defensive end because the ball has been out of his hands a little more over these last couple games. And then Jared McCain is starting to round into form, which I was been very excited about. He had a strong last game. He's starting to find his shot a little bit from beyond, and has become a little more playable because of that. It was a rough start to the season for Jared McCain. I'll say that. So as long as the young pieces are coming together, I'm happy. The Paul George Joel Embiid saga continues to be a saga. Embiid is not playing, or actually, I think he has played a little bit tonight. But it's up and down there. George is not playing tonight, and that is you know continue to wonder what his full time presence is going to be. But he was fine in that Atlanta game, fine in that Brooklyn game. He was fine in his role, just an efficient 3-and-D player that kind of works within the offense. So I think they are a fun team, if nothing more, that I'm going to enjoy. They're a 500 team right now. I think that's probably where they're going to end up, but that's certainly more exciting than being the lottery team and the disappointment that they were a year ago. So
Oh yeah, yeah. No, they're in the conversation for a playing seed, and that's kind of at this point uh, all you really ask for, from a squad that really is led by Tyrese Maxey. Via Jazcom has been a really nice get. Uh, well, let's bring this up. So let's talk about VJ. There was a report, and I don't know how credible it is, but and maybe you can shut this down now that Giannis is dealing with injury. But there
Yeah.
was a report a couple of days ago that I saw where there's a trade proposal. Well, there was Giannis was having conversations was
Oh,
supposed
yeah.
to have conversations with the yeah.
Giannis is likely out of Milwaukee. That's a big deal
Oh,
across the league.
okay.
Likely.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So I wanted to get your assessment on that because Doc says no. So I don't trust Doc with anything. Um, but there was a trade idea out there involving our Sixers, having Giannis to Philly for VJ Edgecombe. Let me see if I got this right. VJ Edgecombe, Paul George, and 2 seconds. Now, I honestly, for a minute there, I was for it because
Who
it's
proposed that
Giannis.
one?
Oh, I don't know. It's Sixers Twitter. Sixers
I'm sure
Twitter.
they did.
Yeah, Sixers Twitter is fun. I listen. I, I'm in the camp of I'm good up until you say VJ Edgecombe.
Oh, really?
I
You're
yeah,
saying
no.
no? Really?
I am saying no, which is
Really?
a bold take.
Really?
But I am. Um, I I don't know if he's there yet, but Giannis to me, he seems like he is as the days wind, he is going towards the Joel Embiid track in
Yeah, I don't
terms
know
of
about that
injuries.
one.
Listen,
He played 60 games last year. I don't know about that
he
one.
did, but this year he has been hit with the injury bug. He
A
has
little
been.
bit.
And,
I think what you have to consider is the amount of load that's being placed on Giannis right now. Giannis, it has the highest usage rate of any player in the NBA by a significant margin, because of what Milwaukee's built around him, and that's the reason why these trade rumors are going down. But would you like me to do my impression of Milwaukee Bucks general manager John Horst on a VJ Edgecombe trade offer? It goes a
I
little like
absolutely would.
goes like that. So
Yeah,
yeah, there are much stronger, I would say, trade packages out there than VJ Edgecombe, and we love VJ Edgecombe, and it really also wouldn't be smart. I mean,
but it's
for
BJ
for a
Edgecombe and two
Philadelphia,
firsts.
yeah, that would not be
Two
anywhere near enough.
firsts.
That would not be anywhere near enough. Yeah, this is gonna be. I mean, a five first, like multiple young players scenario. Giannis has reached that quota in this league.
Right. Giannis has a, I mean, counter argument, and I don't know how people would interpret this in terms of NBA stuff,
Yeah,
but the guy hasn't even won a ring yet. He
he
hasn't.
has. No, he
He
has.
had.
He won in 2021. Yeah, and he won.
Oh yeah, the okay,
Yeah,
okay. So I do take that back. But just I don't know. Um, I worry. I mean, how old is Giannis?
I
He
mean, yeah,
is.
he is 28, so
He's.
he's nearing 30. And
I,
it
I,
it is not smart for the Philadelphia 76ers to get in a win now situation with where they are on the cap, nor do I even think that trade works cap wise, and it's also not smart for the Milwaukee Bucks because the Milwaukee Bucks don't own their picks in the near future because of the Damian Lillard trade. So they need to win now, and VJ Edgecombe and Paul George would not do anything for you to win now, as I think we are largely seeing from the current rendition of the Philadelphia 76ers. And so, there's going to be trade offers from San Antonio, from Oklahoma City, even this horrible New York Knicks offer that's been floating around as potentially what's going to go down because of Giannis's desire to go to New York, is a lot better than that offer. So yeah, John Horst.
that is a fantastic impression.
Yep.
Um, let's continue with this Sixers talk. And I hate to bring 94 WIP in
God.
to the chat here. Yeah, no, I know. But I I saw this clip again on Sixers Twitter where Joe Giglio said he was quote totally out on Joel Embiid. That last week was his breaking point. And listen, I am shocked that now is your breaking point when the Sixers have been a fun team and not choking to the Boston Celtics in the dome. Uh, Choking again to the Boston Celtics. Repeat that feels like 10 more times. Um, I don't know. I, I I'm not saying I am a fan of Joel Embiid's play ability right now, but worry is a um I don't mind the role that he's playing, especially with young talent like um Tyrese, like Jared McCain, like VJ. Those guys so far have been able to pick up the load for the most part. There have been games where Tyrese has had to carry this offense with 40 points. It's worked. There have been games where he has had to carry him and it hasn't worked. Um, there was a game where just recently where they went into overtime and Joel got hit with a minute restriction and they sort of choked. I believe that was the last. I think it was that was on Tuesday, right? Something that was.
Uh, I think you're thinking about you could be talking about a couple games, but I think you're talking
Yeah,
about the Boston game earlier this season.
yeah, no. Um, so the minute restriction stinks, but I don't I don't know if out is the right word, but at the same time, also like you're not gonna have success. I feel like trading him. Um, I don't know how many people will take on that sort of injury history or contract. Contract is insane, if I remember correctly. So I don't know. I feel like we're kind of at I don't want to say a crossroad and sort of blow things out of proportion with Joel. But like I don't know. Is the way that he's playing right now and the role that he's in, is that sustainable? Is that sort of how you see things going? Will it work? Will it not work? I I don't know what Daryl Morey is cooking. And when you don't know what Morey is cooking, that's usually never a good thing ever.
Yeah, I mean, I think it it is absolutely sustainable. It is absolutely sustainable, and I think for a lot of Philadelphia fans and a lot of Philadelphia media, I think this is a team that's rather frustrating, right? Because there's varying levels of expectation with Embiid on the floor for what you're going to be within the terms of the Eastern Conference. And I think it's important to remember that Joel Embiid physically will likely never be what he was a couple of years ago. And that is incredibly frustrating uh, because, we've seen him in the past be the MVP and be one of the most dominant scorers of our generation. And because he has paid that massive deal as well. But within the expectations of this team and this timeline and this roster in which they have all these young good players around him and are who are playing relatively well, I'm absolutely fine with Joel Embiid being in this role, and I have no understanding of anyone who truly isn't, to be honest, because the goal is really, in my eyes, pushed towards 2027, 2028. Building through Tyrese Maxey's prime and not through Joel Embiid's prime, which is largely what we're seeing in the building of this roster. Um, And so, if you're thinking of it in terms of building around Joel Embiid, I think it is incredibly frustrating. But I think if 2 years ago tells you just about anything, uh, this is, it's really not capable to expect Joel Embiid to be able to get through 4 rounds of the playoffs, and it's truly not. Uh, it's not a thing to think that he's going to be healthy for even 60 50 games of the season. And so that's where you start building around Maxi and lower your expectations and, hope this youth is able to develop. And with how they're playing so far early this season and even in this game so far tonight, I think the future is bright in Philadelphia, even if, this is a 35 win team this year.
Yeah, no, I agree. Shout out Broad Street Sports. Thanks for hopping in, my guy. Um, you want the top of the top, the cream of the crop for Eagles content. He's your guy. So one more thing, before we move on to the Phils. There's a lot of anticipation for the Phillies to make a move. It's the winter meetings are coming up, so we got to talk about that before we end things off. But before we do, I didn't even. I was considering not talking about this, but I feel like we have to sort of kill off any of the rumors, trade buzz, any of it, because it I hate every second of it personally. But Ben Simmons, I know. Cover your ears, everybody. I apologize for making some people's ears bleed with that name. But he's floating around Sixers Twitter again. He was asked if he would sign back with the Sixers for a minimum contract, and he said he would do it for free. And I feel like the way that Daryl Morey operates, for some reason, yeah, no, you can kind of tell I'm not a Daryl Morey guy, but I feel like that's a move that he would make, and I am completely against it personally. I worry about the culture he would bring, the drama he would bring. I would worry about him not being able to hit the threes. Worry about him, you know, uh, worry about him in the paint, going up the lane, and saying to himself at the last second, "Oh, this is my Ben Simmons impression. Where's the ball? Oh, here's Joel." And they're not able to get the ball off because there's 0.5 seconds on the shot clock, and they have to take an awkward shot, and there's no offense, to speak of. Personally, I'm not there with Ben Simmons. You have enough bench riders, you do. But what are your thoughts on the whole Ben Simmons thing?
Yeah, no. I think you saw what he was athletically during the last Clipper run, and that is not at the moment an NBA player. So I'm good on that.
Yeah, no, that's all that needs to be said. The dude, um, I am so sick and tired of his summer videos that he puts on IG, and then he hyped himself out to be LeBron James, basically reincarnated, and then we see what we see. So yeah, no, I think we all at 302 birds. I think we are all in agreement that Ben Simmons is not the answer. He will never be the answer, and he is destined to be on the Sixers wall of shame. That's exactly where he belongs. Uh, and I think that takes us into our next and final segment, the Phillies. Uh, the winter meetings are pretty much upon us, and I am not gonna lie, I am a little worried about the Cincinnati Reds. And why do I see the Cincinnati Reds? There is legitimate interest with them and Kyle Schwarber. That would suck. That would absolutely suck. Not just because Kyle Schwarber is a guy that can hit dang near 50 freaking home runs a season. the locker room presence that he brings is just absolutely immaculate, absolutely incredible stuff. Um, I feel like when the Phillies lost Reese Hoskins to the Brewers a few years ago after he had a really sad exit. He hurt himself in the spring training and never really played. I feel like Kyle Schwarber was the guy that stepped into the leadership role that Reese Hoskins was. And I think it would be a major shame if Cincinnati got him. Now, yes, that guy would put up, oh my God, just ridiculous numbers there. I can't even lie. Um, I know a Reds fan. When I went to a there was a sports broadcasting workshop that I did over the summer, and that guy, his name's Roe, absolutely fantastic guy. But he told me that I think he said something to the effect of um, the the river out in right field will take an absolute beating because home runs will go into that sucker with absolutely no problem. Um, it's a hitter's ballpark for left-handed hitters, and I think he would do absolute numbers. Now, here's the catch: Kyle Schwarber wants to win a World Series. Now, is he gonna get that with Cincinnati? I don't know. I don't know. They were on the verge of doing stuff um this past season. I believe they got in, yeah, they got in this year over the Mets, which just we love that. We hate the Mets. Um Lowell Mets after spending millions and millions of dollars on Juan Soto, Francisco Lindor, and all these guys, not even to make the playoffs. That's just you just absolutely love to see that.
Mhm.
But they were beat out by the Cincinnati to make the wild card round, and then eventually get absolutely destroyed by a real team in the Los Angeles Dodgers. So uh, at the same time, they have the potential to, I guess, make noise, but they, to me, are not a true World Series contender threat yet. Um, and that's what Kyle Schwarber wants. Now, if I'm him, and I think all signs are leading to him signing back with Philadelphia, um, then you sign with Philly if you want to win a World Series. If you want best chance to win a World Series, add all the teams that are in on you. Um, I think you come back to Philadelphia. But I would be lying to you if I'd be lying to you if I told you I was not scared with Kyle Schwarber leaving Cincinnati or leaving Philly and going to Cincinnati. There was also um, a a a rumor um, that the Phillies were in competition with with the New York Mets for Kyle Schwarber, which oh my god, I I would just absolutely I wouldn't be able to sleep tonight if the guy signed with the Mets. I don't think anybody in this city would. So he is, I think, top of the list. Um, but then right behind him there are guys that um there are there's a couple guys from Japan that the Phillies are interested in. Apparently, the Cubs, Phillies, Yankees are among teams interested in Tatsu Imai. He is a right-handed pitcher from the Shiba Lions of Japan's Nippon Professional Baseball League. He's had a really great year. He'll turn 28 in May. He posted a sub-3 ERA in each of his past four MPB seasons, and he had a career low 192 mark in his last 163 innings in 2025. about a 30% strikeout rate, and just a walk rate under 10, and tops out at 99 miles an hour. And honestly, people to me, um, it's sort of like it's like your comparison to the offensive line and how people aren't give their injury thing enough credit. That is the same deal with the Phillies pitching staff. Because right now, you may not have the same Zach Wheeler, season. He had a major surgery to fix some nerve damage. Andrew Painter is coming off a Tommy John surgery and does not look the same. Uh, at all, which is very wild. And the thought is that you will not have the money because you are trying to bring back Kyle Schwarber, because you're trying to bring back JT Realmuto, that, listen, you may not bring back Ranger Sparks. So you're going to need, in my opinion, um, some starting pitching stuff help and big time. Aaron Nola, a guy that, listen, I love the guy. Um, he was a fan. A few years ago, I went down and covered the Phils uh, for the Southern High School newspaper, and he was a fantastic guy, fantastic interview. But he had a bad year this year. So starting pitching depth to me is a big concern, and mine would sort of break barriers because the Phillies have had some trouble the last few seasons getting that guy from Japan like the LA Dodgers have. There is a wealth of potential over there. We've seen it with Otani, obviously. Yamamoto, um, like those guys, they know ball, and it definitely seems they know how to play ball, and it definitely seems like the Phillies would, sort of they would definitely have success. They signed a guy from Japan and broke a couple barriers. Um, but overall, um, I, I definitely, I definitely think that they need to make some moves. They can't just at the same time with bring back Schwarber, real Mito, great. I think that's a fine move, but at the same time, you can't just run it back. You cannot. Um, what? If Adam, if the Phillies do run it, back, I think that would be catastrophic. You know?
Yeah, I think to an extent, right? Because the I mean the common place that you always land in sports is, that not improving is regressing to the medium, right? The worst place to be is the middle at all times. And even in a sport without a salary cap and, running it back generally, leads to that sentiment. However, it does seem with the Phillies' interest in a lot of these Japanese players, right? Like there's the potential to kind of replace by committee and hopefully, try to draw out, a roster from there. So I completely agree with you to that extent. I know they've talked about Murakami a lot, kind of trying to build Schwarber in the aggregate. I know they talked about bringing in other players to kind of boost the offense without Schwarber, trading for some guys. So it's there's definitely room for them to look to improve. But the heartbeat and the soul of this team last season was Kyle Schwarber, and it would really hurt to have that loss. That is for sure.
Yeah. No, I agree. Alrighty, folks. Looks like Thursday night football is underway. So that is where I think we could wrap things up. Should be a good game. Um, I
Absolutely.
believe I will be on the Sixers post game show later here on For No Two Birds. Um, need an update on that front soon. We'll get that handled. But if not,
Should be a fun one with
uh,
how they played in that
it,
first half.
oh yeah, no, I completely agree. Right now, your Sixers, again, they're playing the Warriors, up 62-40. Warriors sort of creeping their way back into it. I won't lie. Um, guys like Steph Curry, they Seth Curry, excuse me.
Yeah,
Nothing, no
Steph's
points.
out.
Yeah, no. So Moody, he's got 12. Uh, and he's really been the
I have
Warriors'
a
sole
feeling.
guy.
I have a feeling they're going to be able to close it out, though. They've looked really strong defensively throughout this game. Got a lot of turnovers, and it's looking good. So
Yeah, no, it has. Tyrese has had a nice game, 24 points. So, um, yeah, look for that post game show coming soon, I think. But if not, you'll see us back next week, Thursday, around 7 o'clock, I think.
yeah,
If not, give or take a few hours. But yeah, Thursday, 7 o'clock next week. Uh, Me and Adam are going on break sooner rather than later. So the content will be absolutely fire. Hopefully these next couple months. I know you'll be in Florida. Um,
I'll be around.
Doing
Don't worry.
some
Can't get rid of
hell
me
yeah.
yet.
Yeah, no, no way. But yeah, thank you all for watching this edition of Philly Sports Pulse on 302 Birds. Please follow Philly Sports Pulse on Instagram and follow 302 Birds on the Twitters, on the Instagrams, the TikToks, all your streaming platforms, Spotify. Um, Follow all the 302 Birds on all the networks. And we seriously we appreciate you all for watching. Have a good night, everybody. Go Birds.
Go birds. Go safe.
Pain.